Yes, ma'am. Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva. Shri Prabhupada ki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskrityam Naranchayva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayasho Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 45, text number 22. Sa pita sa cha janani Yo pushnitam swaputravat Shishun bandhurbhir utsritan Utsrishtan अकल्पै पोषरक्षणे स पिता स च जननी यौ पुष्णितां स्वपुत्रवत् शिशुर्बन्धुभिरुत्सृष्टान् अकल्पै पोषरक्षणे स पिता स च जननी यौ पुष्णितां स्वपुत्रवत् शिशुबन्धुभिरुत्सृष्टान् अकल्पै पोषरक्षणे स्वपिता स च जननी यो पुष्णितां स्वपुत्रवत् यो पुष्णितां स्वपुत्रवत् शिशुर्बन्धुभिरुत्सृष्टान् अकल्पै पोषरक्षणे सः he पिता father सा she cha and janani mother yau who pushnitam nourish swa their own putra sons what like shishun children bandhubihi by their family ushishtan abandoned akalpahi who are unable posha to maintain rakshane and protect. Translation by disciples of Srila Prabhupada and disciples ki jai. Translation: they are the real father and mother who care for as they would their own sons, children abandoned by relatives unable to maintain and protect them. Repeat. They are the real father and mother who care for as they would their own sons, children abandoned by relatives unable to maintain and protect them. So there's no purport, BBT purport. We'll read the Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Nanda may say, "O Balabhadra, actually you are the legitimate son of my friend Vasudeva. How can he, now free from danger, give up his own son, obtaining him after many years? Therefore, you must stay in your father's house. The two of us will somehow carry on living, blocking up our hearts, torn up by separation from you with the stone of discrimination. But I could not tolerate to see the suffering of my friend Vasudeva. We were only your guardians." So that's the entire thing in quotes. So Nanda Maharaj spoke this, and then again in quotes, this is Balabhadra. "Those who care for a child as their own son are the actual mother and father of the child. The seminal father is not the real father, and she who bears the child in her womb is not the real mother. If father and mother abandon a child and the child dies, can they be called the father and mother? Those who raise the child are more worthy of respect by the discerning child. Therefore, I will not be able to stay here. Even if Brahma himself comes and speaks to me, he will not be able to change my mind. O Father, Krishna will go with you and happily play in Vraj, but I will stay in Mathura burning in the fire of separation. That cannot be. Therefore, I make this oath. If Krishna leaves me and goes off to Vraj, then my life will be finished." This is the intention of Balram's words in this verse. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is actually saying that this verse is a response of Balaram to Nanda Maharaj. Jiva Goswami is actually saying that this verse is actually spoken by Krishna. And he says, Balaram, so Jiva Goswami is saying, should also not be considered otherwise. So Krishna speaks. Like the purport is the same, but now Jiva Goswami is saying that Krishna is saying this, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying that Balaram is saying this, but they are saying, making the similar point. The word cha means even. Thus, Balaram should also be considered only your child. But I took birth and was nourished and cared for by you and Yashoda. Or they are the mother and father of who raised the child, and not those who have given up the child. Therefore, if I were to take birth from someone else, this would be so. What to speak of being born from you, being nourished and cared for by you. You are my parents and no one else. Okay, Sanatana Goswami has similar purport, so I will not read that. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamsya He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriya Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishnaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Kauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Peshatarine. So I seek the blessings of Maharaj, His Grace Drishta Prabhu and all the Vaishnavas. Kindly bless me that we can speak a few words on this verse. Hare Krishna. So if you see the verse, it's actually saying Pita and Janani, right? So it's saying father and mother. And there's a comparison between, one way we can say the comparison between the foster parents and the parents who actually gave birth. So the first two lines are Pita and Janani, the father and mother. Pushnitam. Pushnitam, the word there is actually nourished. Okay? And what? Swaputra, like their own sons. So one side we have father and mother who nourished them like their own sons. And the other contrast to that is Shishun, children. Ushishtan, abandoned. Right? Ushishtan, abandoned. So this is referring to Vasudeva and Devaki. Akalpahi, because they were unable to maintain and protect. Right? So either if we stick with Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's purport, where he's saying that Baladev is actually speaking this. Right? And also in the previous verse, he actually made the point that Balaram is speaking the first two verses, the last verse and this verse. But Jiva Goswami is saying that actually Krishna is speaking this verse. But the main theme of this verse is either Balaram or Krishna speaking it, making the point that actually the parents who actually nourish the children like their own sons, they are actually deserve more respect, and they are the real parents rather than those parents who actually gave birth and who abandoned the children because they could not maintain and protect them. Right? So that is basically the verse here. So I want to speak a little bit about the theme, the mood of the entire scene here. And so it is described that how in Mathura, when Krishna was engaged in so many activities, killing Kamsa, breaking the bow, etc., all those activities. So during the entire day, Krishna and Balaram used to be engaged with so many activities. And it is described that Nanda Maharaj and all the Gopas who had actually come to Vrindavan, they were actually staying almost on the outskirts of Mathura, in this place known as Balaram Kund. They were actually residing there. So whole day Krishna and Balaram used to be in Mathura doing different activities. But in the night time, they both used to return to this place where Nanda Maharaj and the Vrindavan Vasis had set up their camp. And there they used to actually come together. And at that moment, Krishna and Balaram, their mood was, they were actually thinking that how will we, what should we do now? Right? Now Vasudeva, like Ugrasen has been established as a king. can we now go back to Vrindavan? Right? They are actually thinking, can we go back? And their heart is actually to go back to Vrindavan. It's described that after Krishna left, Mother Yashoda stopped eating, right? And it's described that all the gopas, like all the gopis and all the remaining Vrajvasis who were there in Vrindavan, they were so confused. They did not know what is day, what is night. They were just like, didn't have any activity in one way. Because when Krishna was there, when Krishna leaves to the forest, that is a time of the day. Right? Krishna wakes up, that's the first time. Then when Krishna leaves to the forest, so their entire day was based on activities of Krishna. But now Krishna is not there. So they are just like confused. What are we doing? And Mother Yashoda has not been eating. So Krishna, knowing all this, is thinking that, oh, we have to go back. We have to go back. And his heart is there because he, the love of the Vrajvasis, they are the most dear devotees of Krishna. So he wants to go back. Right? Now, other side we have Vasudeva and Devaki, and he's thinking like after Vasudeva and Devaki they gave birth, but then after that, they had separation from Krishna and Balaram, and then now after 11 years, technically they actually are reuniting with Krishna and Balaram. So isn't it our duty to actually stay here and actually serve Vasudeva and Devaki, give pleasure to them? So they have this whole, in their mind, these whole two sides. What should we do now, right? So because their mood is they want to go back to Vrindavan, it's described that they actually, propose in the court that, now Ugrasen is established as a king. So now you're all protected. Kamsa is killed. Everything is good now. So we can go back to Vrindavan. But then the argument was like, oh, no, Kamsa is killed. But what about now all the friends of Kamsa? You have Jarasandha and all these. Now they are going to attack us. How can you leave us? You have killed Kamsa, but still your duty that you actually stay here and protect us. So one side is the duty of Krishna to protect, and the other side is his love for the residents of Vrindavan. So in the previous purport also, this point is actually made that Krishna is thinking, what can I do? And then he's thinking, actually and Maharaj, you explained this point yesterday, that Krishna is actually really the son of Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj, right? So that he's a real son there. So Krishna is saying, I am actually their son. I was nourished by them. So it's okay for me to go back. But you, Balram, you stay here. Then both sides of the equation will be taken care of. But, how can Balram stay without Krishna? And hence, in one way, Balram is speaking this verse and saying that, oh, Krishna, if you are saying that I am the real son of Vasudeva, and hence I should stay, no. The parents who have raised, they are actually the real parents. And hence, Balram is trying to convince Krishna that you cannot say that I am the son of Vasudeva and hence I should stay. Because even for me, my real parents are actually Yashoda and Nanda. So even Balram is actually making that point that you can. And I think in the previous purport, this point was mentioned. Okay. Even in this purport, Balram is actually, like we see towards the end, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is making the point that those who raised a child are more worthy of respect by the discerning child. Therefore, I will not be able to stay here. Even if Brahma himself comes and speaks to me, he will not be able to change my mind. So Balram is saying there is no possibility that Krishna, you go and I stay here. No. And then he says, I take an oath. Therefore, I make this oath. If Krishna leaves me and goes off to Vraj, then my life will be finished. This is the intention of Balram's words in this words. Right? So we see like how Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is actually in this situation where, and like one way, one can say like, oh, Krishna, he's in anxiety, what to do? Should I take care of my duty here or should I go back to Vrindavan? What is this? Like Krishna, he can do everything, right? But the entire situation here is just to increase, Maharaj was speaking about this yesterday, increase the rasa of the relationship between Krishna and Balram and Vasudeva Devaki and the Vrajvasis. Like the whole thing is to increase that feeling of viraha or separation, right? Where Krishna is feeling obliged, like, oh, I have to stay in Mathura, and then what about the Vrajvasis? He's feeling all this separation and Vrajvasis. So all this, and we know from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who has established that this mood of separation is actually more higher in one way than the mood of union. Right? So in that way, this entire pastime is actually kind of like stimulating further that mood of separation, where Krishna is almost being forced to actually not go to Vrindavan and stay in Mathura. Right? So anyway, the next verse, this theme will continue, and basically there it said that, okay, you go back, Nanda Maharaj, you go back. We'll just stay for a few days. We will actually satisfy your friends, Vasudev, and then we will come back. So that's the whole theme here. So that was the first part I wanted to discuss. The second thing I want to mention is the mood of Nanda Maharaj. So as Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is actually saying, he's saying, actually you are the son of, he's saying, oh Balram, you are the son of Vasudev. How can he, now free from danger, give up his own son after obtaining him after many years? So one can think about, like, I was thinking about this point, that Nanda Maharaj is actually making this point that Balaram, you are son of Vasudev, and hence how will Vasudev bear the pain of separation? And we see that mood, which is actually the mood of Vaikuntha, that it is the mood of selflessness and the mood of sacrifice. And that mood is seen to the highest extent here in Nanda Maharaj, because how can Nanda Maharaj even think of living separate from Balaram? It is his life, just like we read about Dasharath and Lord Ramchandra. When Vishwamitra actually came to ask Lord Ramchandra, then Dasharath was as if asking his own life, So Nanda Maharaj is actually saying that, oh Balaram, you are son of Vasudev, hence you should stay. Otherwise Vasudev will experience so much pain. And he is actually feeling for the mood of Vasudev. And thinking about the feelings of Vasudev, he is willing to take that sacrifice and say that, oh, I will actually burn tears of separation. Like he's making a point. The two of us will somehow carry on living, blocking up our hearts, torn up by separation from you with the stone of discrimination. So Nanda Maharaj is expressing that this is going to be very, very painful. How can we live away from you, Balaram? But he's actually thinking of making that sacrifice, thinking about Vasudev. And we see this mood of sacrificing his own connection, that whole feeling of love, just so that Vasudev can actually experience the pleasure of having the children who actually went through so much suffering, all through the previous years. And I was thinking of this theme of selflessness, theme of sacrifice, and also a theme of empathy, where Vasudev is actually thinking, Nanda Maharaj is thinking, what would Vasudev actually feel? He's not being selfless, saying that, oh, I raised the Balaram and Krishna, so I am the father, hence they should come. Like he's not, he's not claiming that, oh, they are my parents. Saying, no. Vasudev will actually, he's my friend, and he'll go through so much, so hence you should actually go back to Vasudev. And this mood of selflessness is actually this is a mood of Vaikuntha, right? And Prabhupada, in one of the purports, he actually makes a point. This comes in the 4th canto. He says, Vaikuntha thinking means appreciating the service of every other person. Appreciating everyone else's service. And here Nanda Maharaj is just thinking, what will Vasudev go through? So hence he's actually feeling that mood of empathy for Vasudev. Maharaj is so expert on this topic of empathy. But he's thinking of this whole mood of empathy. What would Vasudev do? So I was thinking of this mood, that how can we develop that mood of selflessness, that mood of sacrifice, that mood of empathy? And the point I was thinking, and the main point that came to mind is that actually our entire process of Krishna consciousness is to actually move us from the platform of selfishness to selflessness. Because right now we are conditioned, and our conditioning is because of a false ego, where we are actually thinking in terms of me and mine, right? Aham mameti. And it's all okay, what is in it for me? What's there for me? Even when you take up bhakti, our main thing is okay, how will Krishna consciousness reduce my anxieties? How will Krishna consciousness give pleasure to me? Initially, it's all about our selfishness. At least when we take up Krishna consciousness, that's a real self-interest. So that way we can actually say, okay, at least he's practicing Krishna consciousness. Maybe his intention is not completely selfless, but at least he's coming to that platform, like the difference between a raw mango and a ripe mango. At least, it is connected to the tree. So to develop this mood of selflessness, and like even when we are chanting Hare Krishna, like we say, Cheto Darpana Marjana, right? So we are actually giving up that mood of, oh, I am the center, to actually, Krishna, I am your servant. My entire purpose here, my entire purpose of my existence is finally to give pleasure to Krishna, Radha and Krishna. To actually consciously cultivate that mood of that my purpose here is only for the pleasure of Krishna. And that is basically the transformation of bhakti. Even while chanting, we are doing a service, if you can actually be aware of this point, then why am I doing this service? Why am I chanting? Right? Why am I studying Bhagavatam? All this is just to give pleasure to my Guru and Krishna. So having that mood is actually developing that mood of selflessness. And then other points we can say is how Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Vaishnav Seva, Jive Doya, and Nam Ruchi. Right? These three things. So if you see Vaishnav Seva, when we actually say, oh, I'm servant of a servant, accept that mood, and go out and serve Vaishnavas, then that is, that's a mood of developing selflessness, because we are thinking that, oh yeah, my purpose is to serve Vaishnavas. Everyone is a Vaishnava, let me serve them. And then if you go further, the principle of Jive Doya, giving Krishna consciousness on earth. Like I personally feel like this is like very, very powerful way to actually develop selflessness. Because you go out, you distribute books, it's like a thankless task. Like people are not like, oh, I was just waiting for you. They actually are like, why are you here? Why are you disturbing me? There'll be rejections. They'll be like, oh, I'm not interested. All these things happen, but that actually develops that mood of, I am doing this just for the pleasure of my Guru and Krishna. And then further we develop this mood. The people around the world, everyone is suffering due to lack of Krishna consciousness. And that is developing that mood of empathy, where we are actually thinking of the benefit of everyone else. So this Jive Doya principle, I feel, is like very powerful to develop that mood of selflessness, going out, giving the holy name, distributing Srila Prabhupada's books. Actually, all these helps us develop that mood. That no. You get rejection and we feel like, oh, why am I doing this? Well, it's just for the pleasure of Krishna, and then all the people in the world need this. They do not know, but inherently everyone is looking for Krishna Bhakti. Right? So there's a few points about, developing that mood of sacrifice and selflessness. And we see Nanda Maharaj in the highest stage, he's actually willing to give up that association with Balaram, just thinking about Vasudev's condition. And then the second point here, which I want to mention, is those who raise the child are more worthy of respect. Right? So how often Prabhupada actually makes this point that everyone has parents, right? The biological parents, those who give birth to us. But he actually says, as a human beings, everyone should have the second parents. And what was that? Everyone should actually become a Dvija. Dvija means a twice born. And when you say twice born, who are the parents? The Guru actually is a father, and the Vedas are our mother. And if you actually consider that point, and that's why Prabhupada often quotes that verse like this. Janme janme sabe pita mata paye, Guru Krishna Guru nahi mile, bhaja hari ay. It says janme janme sabe pita mata paye. Every lifetime we get father and mother. So what is so big about, what's so big? Like everyone, we are born of parents, right? We have parents. But Krishna Guru nahi mile, bhaja hari hai, right? But to actually get a bona fide spiritual master and Krishna, that is actually the special thing. So even if you consider that the parents who nourish us, so in terms of our spiritual life, that's why our spiritual master and the Shastras are one way actually deserve more respect than our biological parents. Like we certainly have gratitude for our parents, we serve them, we take care of them. We do all our duties to our parents, right? But we understand that our duties to our spiritual master, who have given us the second birth by initiating us into the spiritual life, our duty to them is actually more important. They deserve more worship than our biological parents. You know. So that's the second point. And also I was thinking, if we elaborate this in terms of like Varna and Ashrama also, like Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, what does he say? Chatur Varnam Maya Shrishtam Guna Karma Vibhagasa. He doesn't say about Janma. He says about birth, Guna and Karma. He doesn't talk about Janma, birth. He talks about qualities and activities. And if you see for every one of us, yes, we may be born with certain psychophysical nature, but it is our parents who are actually nourishing us, or it is a guru who's actually bringing out those qualities and activities in every child. And Krishna is saying, Chatur Varna Maya Shrishtam Guna Karma Vibhagasa. So your Varna is determined by your qualities and activities. Like Prabhupada often gives that. Just taking birth in the family of Brahmana does not guarantee that you are a Brahmana. You have to be trained with the Brahmanical qualities. And he also gives the example of like a high court judge. Not that the son of a high court judge by default becomes a high court judge. He has to actually be trained in that. So in that way also we see the role of the parents who are actually raising the children, who are actually cultivating the children, are actually, or in our terms, in the Guru and the Shastra, is actually more important than our biological parents. Okay. So those are a few points, and I will see if there are any comments or any disproves. Should I?
There was that in our path as devotees, Vaishnavas, the relationship's so very important. And in the Mayavad school, they're very, very detached. And so, some parts of the Bhagavad Gita talk about this detachment, not being attached to the family and not having any attachments to this material world. But the devotees actually develop real attachment for family because Krishna has attachment for his family. And so therefore it's a transcendent. So spiritual life is attachment, but it's the right type of attachment, not the negativity of the Mayavadis who just want to negate everything, even the good thing. Because in this material world, it's relative, but it's still is good, the family, the relationships, the love. But they negate that, and they have nothing to replace it. But we don't negate. We really just bring these things up to a higher level because that's what Krishna does.
Yeah. Thank you, Guru. Yeah, so the difference between, like how Prabhupada says, Mayavadis, they consider Jagat Mithya. Everything in this world is false, so hence